Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar on the top Xero trends for 2023. I've got the two Alex with me today, and we've got tons of great content prepared for all of you on what's new in Xero, the latest best practices for this year, and just general tips that you can use to get more out of the tool. So we're really excited to kind of dive into that with all of you in just a few moments. Before we do though, I did want to jump into some housekeeping items. So first and foremost, the webinar will be recorded. We'll also be sending out the slide deck via email on Monday. So everyone who signed up will get a copy of both the recording and the slide deck. You can feel free to share those with anyone else who you think might find the content valuable. Beyond that, if you signed up through CPA Academy today and you are looking to get those CPE credits, we do have 4 polls ready to go for you guys. So just make sure that you respond to each of those. We'll be launching them throughout the webinar. And yeah, any issues that you have with your CPE, please reach out to them directly. Beyond that, I think that's most things covered. We have a formal Q&A plan for the end of the webinar, but if you have any questions that pop up throughout the content we have prepared, feel free to just chat us in the questions tab of the GoToWebinar control panel that you'll see somewhere on your screen. So that's kind of most of our housekeeping stuff. So with that, we can jump into introductions. So for myself, my name is Elish McCann. I lead the SEO and content efforts at Method. For those of you, who may not be familiar with us, we recently launched a really deep integration with Xero in, I would say, the fall of last year. So we're kind of new to the space, but have done a ton of research and are really eager to get a little bit more entrenched in the community, hence this webinar today. Beyond that, I'm joining today from kind of the western side of Canada in a little mountain town in Alberta. And we're going to jump into where everyone else in the world is joining from as well with our first poll. But with that, I'll pass it over to Alex Newson from XU Magazine.
Hey guys, thanks for having me today. Thank you very much for the intro. My name's Alex Newson because there's 2 of us on here, which is always great, 2 Alexes. I work for a company called XU Magazine. I've been part of the team here for over 8 years now. And XU Magazine is kind of a magazine and bi-weekly newspaper aimed at the apps and the ecosystem surrounding Xero and fintech. And I'm pretty lucky. My job is to work on our partnerships with these apps and the events we go to. So I get to really deep dive into what kind of apps surround Xero themselves, and kind of the ecosystem around it. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Great, thanks so much. And with that, I'll pass it over to our other Alex.
Hi, thanks. First of all, thank you for having me here. My name is Alex Kesselman. It is said that I'm a product expert, but officially I'm a solution engineer at ApprovalMax. We'll talk about our software a bit later, but just to give a bit of a context of what I do, I hear our customers globally, I hear their challenges, and I'm trying to understand the way we can implement technology in their day-to-day business in order to automate their approval process. So thanks for having me here.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. So before we jump into any of our trends for this year, we do have our first poll, and I'm going to launch in just a few seconds. So we did want to get to know our audience today, and I know there's some geographic kind of differences within Xero, depending where in the world you are using it. So that leads us to kind of our first poll here. So I'm just going to launch it, and we'll leave it open for about a minute so that everyone can kind of get their responses in. Again, if you did sign up through CPA Academy and you are looking to get that CPE credit, make sure that you participate in all 4 of the polls that we have prepared today. So we got a few options here, and apologies if yours did not make the list. Unfortunately, GoToWebinar only limits us to, I think, what is that, 5 options there. So we got the USA as number 1, the UK, which is where Alex Newson's tuning in from. Alex Kesselman is from Turkey, so on that Europe, I guess, Asia border there, depending where you're at, Alex. And then, of course, we have
like Asia.
Yeah, okay, nice. And then we have Australia and New Zealand, of course. Canada didn't make the list just because limited responses, or I guess limited options here. So we do have other for different regions like Canada, anywhere in Asia, South Africa, all those different geo regions. So with that, it looks like most of you guys have voted. So just going to close that poll here. And let's take a look at where everyone's tuning in from. So looks like the majority of our live attendees today are from the USA, which is great to see. And then we've got a few other kind of international friends hanging out. So that's awesome. All right. And from there, we're going to jump into today's content. So I think we just want to pull up the slides again there, looking good. So first question for today is, what trends and challenges are both of you anticipating for 2023? Alex Kesselman, do you want to start us off?
Sure, absolutely. Actually, not only for 2023, but I think from the decade ahead, I think the main trend would be the AI thing and the automation part of it. We already can see that ChatGPT is on the way, Midjourney, autonomous vehicles, so many things and so many markets are now being automated and so many AI technology being involved in these processes. Same thing will happen on the bookkeeping, and actually already happening on the bookkeeping and accounting side. So what I would see more and more of these tasks, that routine tasks that might be error-prone tasks, will be automated with the things that machine might do much better than the person can do. So then humans can actually add their work, add their experience more on the customer side of the things, and doing all the routine things with the machine learning, with the automation tools.
Totally. I think a big theme of 2023 is going to be like, I guess, working smarter, not harder, and automation is a key way to kind of do that. So thank you for that. And Alex Newsom, what are your thoughts on this one?
Kind of just partly echoing what Alex said. I think we're going to have to see, I think we will see, and we are starting to see the mindset change around automation as well, AI and all this. I think people were at one point, replacing the human element, or, I'm getting rid of jobs. And actually, I think people are starting to see the value added services in doing that, as well as the better results, but also then focusing their time on being able to grow their businesses, rather so like work on their businesses rather than in it. And I think that's the mindset change we've seen kind of happening over the last couple of years, where we're really going to see accelerate over the next year or two, just to echo what Alex said, and just see that people's mindsets change around that. I also think we saw again the appreciation of people connecting on a human level together as well in person. I think obviously we don't always go on about the last couple of years, but we didn't have that connection with people. We weren't able to meet face to face as well. And we found other ways of doing it, which has brought great change in businesses. And I think we'll see that continue in the respect of remote working or flexibility in work. But I think what we're also going to see this year is a desire and need for people to want to connect in person more, go to larger scale, smaller scale events, listen to app providers, listen to software providers speak. I think this is a great opportunity. Listen and connect with like-minded peers in the same position. And I think we're going to see that really accelerate again. And maybe people see the need. I think maybe we took it for granted. And I think over the next one, I've personally myself in the UK, I've seen it a lot more over the last 12 months. And I think it will accelerate into this year, of people wanting to connect, wanting to kind of spend that time together and spend that time doing connections on a human level. So I'm really expect to see a lot more events, a lot more smaller scale connections with people, a lot more kind of networking in, I guess, in more of a intimate level with people when you can connect on where they're at in their journey as well. So I'm excited to see that. But I think also there's been a good mind shift change over the last couple of years in one, we can automate things, and secondly, how should we work and what should we be offering staff as well around that work for us.
No, totally. I know most of our audience today is in the US, but both the Alexes were just telling me how they're going to be at XeroCon Australia, I think next summer. So you can definitely look out for them if you're up for the trip. One last trend I want to call out there was, I think we're going to see this bit of a shift in terms of like, I think Alex, you were talking about it earlier, but being hesitant and maybe a little bit scared of embracing technology, to really getting trained up on it and leveraging that. And I know there's been a lot of phishing scams and stuff like that. We've seen a big rise in that for small businesses, particularly on Xero as well. So I think that's another kind of area to just watch out and educate yourselves on. Any final thoughts from the panel on trends to watch out for?
Yeah, just to follow on what you're saying there, I think as well, like if you take obviously Alex, the Alex names from Approval Max, you see these apps now and you see that they're truly working on a worldwide basis and can offer support. So as we look back and see today, we've got most people joining from America, but we see people coming from the UK, Europe, Australia, New Zealand. We're seeing that trend then across apps as well, and being able to support them. Like I see Alex quite a lot around the world, he sees me quite a lot around the world, but we know that's because apps are working on truly a global basis and listen then for what they need to implement. And I sum this up perfectly into instruction on the kind of America's level, on the UK level. I think we're going to see that more and more. I think we'll see apps on more of a global basis, but being able to support people where they are. So if they want to grow their business ever as well, they've got the support there to grow as well. Soon I've seen, and I think Alex kind of summed it up perfectly sitting on here with me as well with the approval max side of things. So
totally.
watch out for that.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. We're going to jump into a little bit more on the Xero App Store and apps that integrate with Xero as well. But just on that note, they do a great job at vetting those integrations in terms of security, integrity, and all that jazz. So
100%.
So with that, we're going to actually move into our second poll very shortly. The next thing that we're actually going to kind of chat through is, what is your main business focus for 2023? So we'd love to kick that off with hearing from our audience today. We'll see if any of these trends kind of relate to what you're focusing on. So just going to launch that poll there. And again, if you did come in through CPA Academy and are looking for your CPE credit, make sure to participate. So we've got a few on here. So one, first and foremost, company growth. Another one here is customer retention. Third, which we kind of touched on with some of these different trends, was increasing efficiency. And then fourth is hiring the right people. So I feel like at Method, we've got a mix of these kind of going on in terms of top priorities, but I think probably growth and then the right people are our top two for this year. Do either of the Alexes have a main business focus for this year?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So so we've had I think we've had a few new people to the team recently, so hiring the right people was really crucial to us, and that's going to continue throughout the year, but making sure we're kind of growing but retaining customers and offering the best service we can. That's our real focus of ours this year, to look after the people that have kind of supported us this far on the journey and make sure we're delivering the best service we can.
Totally.
Same thing on our side, actually. One thing would be hiring the right people, because business is growing. We're adding more and more integrations, adding more and more features. We need to support them. We need to support our customers. Therefore, that will be one big goal. And of course, actually, all of these points can be implemented. Company growth, customer retention, increasing efficiency, all of those are very, very important ones. But people, they should be the first thing to think about. When you have right people doing the right job, that's when it comes for company growth, increasing efficiency, and customer retention. So that will be a number one thing for ourselves.
See what our audience today said. So I'm just going to close the poll here and share those results. So it looks like we're pretty split, I guess, across the board. Efficiency seems to be a big one, and then growth as well. All right, that's great. So thanks again for everyone for participating in the poll. Next, we're just going to chat through some of the new features in Xero for 2023. So I think if we can just get the slides back up there, we can get moving. That's great. Looks good. So I can kick it off, I guess. So we did some kind of what's new this year. So I know that Xero is introducing a financial year by month report, which will definitely come in handy, as well as a bank reconciliation report pack. So make sure to kind of check those out if those features sound of use. Another one is they're kind of, working with one of their app partners, HubDoc, a lot more to leverage machine learning to kind of document any credit notes and flag it for review when those pop up. And then another one too, I know they're partnering with Shopify. Again, kind of a big theme for Xero is app partners. They're really into this kind of community and building an ecosystem for their users to kind of extend the power of Xero. So they'll be working a little bit closer with Shopify and kind of deepening that integration as well. I'm not sure if any of the Alexes have anything to add in terms of new stuff for 2023 within Xero.
So obviously, for me, this is a really interesting question, and I'm sure for the same people on the webinar today, Xero is obviously a global basis, so there's always new releases differently across the country. I think you've summed up some of this, my research anyway, more into the Americas market, what we're seeing over the next over the next period of time anyway, new to it. And one of the big things I would say is I've seen a real acceleration in their ecosystem, not just to crack on about it. That's kind of a bit of where I spend a lot of my time. And I'm seeing a lot more apps come to the market that do niche things and important things. So for example, you've got apps these days that look at your carbon footprint, which if we go back maybe 5 years ago wouldn't have been kind of in anyone's maybe mind front or select few, and it's on more and more. So I'm seeing a lot more of the apps under that and kind of the AI learning side of things and etc. coming into the Xero side of things and integrating with Xero to help efficiency really. So I'd say keep watching out on them. And one of the things I love to follow myself is the Xero API Twitter handle. And that's their dev team that shout out any new integrations and where they've come from. And that's really cool to watch and then go and do your own research of who these new apps are and what they do. Or the new integrations apps, should we say. So
yeah. From our side, I'd say it's more not like on the feature side, but more on the way Xero works and the way they're talking with their community. So it's already seen for many years now, and now once the COVID is over, once we'll start meeting all together within these conferences and so on, I see that Xero invests a lot in the community and a lot in the developers and trying to make as much as possible and bring as many developers as possible, giving them a lot of different benefits. So that's something as a new trend and something that we are looking for as well as the developers. So hopefully 2023 will bring even more additional things for us to make our customers happier and our Xero community happier.
Totally. I think too, Alex Newsom, what you said around that carbon footprint type app is really interesting because like sustainability, obviously a more general trend, but you can even tie that into accounting when it comes to like mileage tracking, if that's like an expense that you can claim taxes and stuff.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing a lot more apps like that that are very relevant now, and that will not just be relevant, but will also improve your practice. And I think also clients will buy into. I think the great thing as well is we can touch on this more when we get to the right point. But when you integrate apps, it's great to have clients to buy in to what you're doing. And if they buy into kind of saving the planet carbon footprint, that's an easy buy-in then to use in your practice and offer services easily to them and pick up the phone and have that conversation with them. And I think we're going to see more and more apps like that, as well as obviously the normal approval systems, reporting, all that kind of stuff we need as well, time tracking, payroll, but I think that's really important to see them kind of apps come through. And the great thing is, I think Alex hit the nail on the head, that Xero have a great dev team that bring these integrations through, and they're tried and trusted by the time they get announced on the App Store. So we can put some trust in the apps that are coming to the App Store to use them because of what they've had to go through already.
I think too, what's cool is like, if you are using Xero and you're using these connected apps, like if you're a bit of a data nerd, like being able to summarize stuff like that and even sharing it with your customers is always something that I know people really like to see in emails. Like, I don't know if any of you guys use Grammarly, but I love kind of their emails and how they, I guess, gamify the data. So cool stuff you can do there for your own customers in terms of summarizing their account with you and stuff. So definitely something to trial if you have time for something a little bit more, I guess, innovative in terms of customer marketing for 2023.
I think Grammarly is one of the first things I downloaded, and so do most of the employees that we take on at XG, to be honest with you.
Same thing. I think I've been using that maybe for 4 years now. Now I actually added to Grammarly also ChatGPT. So I'm adding some of the things when I'm a bit lazy of writing a big long email with all of these formal words. I'm just adding like a quick summary, and ChatGPT just giving me a very nice email that I can then later on send it over with all the relevant information. So technology really kicks in and really brings a lot of really nice features over there.
Definitely. Maybe we'll get some Chat GPT accounting features going on soon. Cool. So on that note, we're going to move into talking a little bit more about cybersecurity and keeping your Xero data safe. So with that, we're going to launch our third poll for today. So let me just get that up here. Alrighty, so this is around how ready your company is feeling for a cybersecurity attack if you were to fall victim to one. So I know everyone is like, oh, that would never happen to me. Like I would never click a fraudulent link or anything like that. For anyone on the call, we did do a webinar actually in December with a fraud investigator, and she was like, that is the biggest problem people have, that they don't think any kind of phishing or cybersecurity would happen to them. So that if I could leave you with one tip, I would say, everyone is kind of equally vulnerable here. So alas, with that, let's look at kind of what our poll options are here. So we've got 3 options for all of you guys to select. You can choose one. First one is you're feeling really ready and you have a response plan and ongoing training at your business around cybersecurity and phishing. The second one is it's a risk, but you don't have anything super formal planned to kind of prevent or mitigate your risk here. And then the third one is you're not ready, which is totally okay. Information and education is power, so we're here to help you. And you do need to create a plan with some training at your organization. So I'm just going to let the last couple of stragglers get their votes in. Again, if you are looking for CPE credit today and signed up through CPA Academy, please make sure to participate. All right, and with that, I'm going to close the poll and we can share these results with everybody, see how the audience is feeling. Okay, great. So it looks like most of you guys are ready, which is awesome. Again, information is power. And some of you still have a little bit of work to do, but that's okay. We can help you with some tips kind of coming up here. So with that, I'll get back to the slides and we can kind of jump into tips on keeping your Xero data safe. So Alex Kesselman, do you want to start off with this one? Any tips?
Sure, absolutely. Well, number one weakest point at every security system, it's people actually. We need to be true here. So people is the weakest point. They're always making all of these mistakes. Therefore, keeping away people from the critical infrastructure might be the number one tip, which will allow you to eliminate like 99% of all the risks from the cybersecurity, from security at all. So keeping away your users from Xero itself, those who should not have access to Xero should not be able to access Xero in the first place, because there is so many apps in between that you can add all of your users for making their approval decisions, for digitizing their invoices, for creating reports and things like that. So having only people who should have access to Xero would be number one tip. Second thing, quite obvious, just have some kind of a training, maybe quarterly, because things are changing constantly. So therefore, you need to keep track on all of these different potential things that might happen in the future. Therefore, just adding this little training, little understanding the way it should work for all of your team won't harm anything. On top of that, do not rely on your emails notifications on what you're receiving, because there's so many phishing attacks. It's super easy to just phish the actual email address and send something for, let's say, for approval or for payment, and later on you will notice that it's just some phishing attack and you just paid money to some scammers. We probably all know already, and we are not into the things with all of the emails where you can get $1 billion from King George from, I don't know, somewhere in Africa, but there is so many new things that are coming every day. Therefore, it's better to be aware and keep track on whatever is happening. That will be 3 things from my end.
Yeah, that's great, Alex. Thanks so much. I can add too. So I know we've talked about a little bit of this already, but I would just say like regular training is really great for your team because you're only, I guess as prepared for cybersecurity issues as your weakest team member, those that know the least about cybersecurity and just different vulnerabilities in terms of how you share information. That would just be kind of another tip to add on top of what Alex already shared, which is great. So with that, we can kind of move on to our next question. So I'm just curious what Xero best practices both of you recommend our audience today implement for 2023. Alex Kesselman, do you want to start us off again?
Sure, absolutely. Well, one thing that I would recommend doing straight away from the very, very beginning is not being scared of trying new technology that is over there. Xero App Store is a great place to take a look on different things. Though Xero already provides you with lots of very, very nice tools, but you can really leverage the way it works with all of these different apps, both on the reporting side, on the OCR side, on the approval automation side. There's so many things over there. So some companies are still quite afraid of adding new things or trying them, and they might have this app fatigue, but this is probably not the way to go to in the next year or two, because all of your competitors will already implement this technology and they will be way ahead of you. So trying these apps and trying to understand what are the weak points within your business and trying to cover them with all of these different apps might be the way to go. So that will be my best practice for 2023.
And I think despite what Alex said there, by looking into the App Store and really seeing how you can improve your business, one, you can help grow your business and the efficiency in it. You can say, like, how can we improve the services we are offering, and how can then we make sure that's not taking up our time to improve the services. And that goes back to what we touched on earlier about these apps being able to do that for you. But I think getting your team to buy into it is always a massive thing, and that's one of the practices I would see into this year. I've seen a lot of people take on an app, take a demo of an app, take a free trial, whatever that is, and I haven't got the team on board to implement it, where someone spent the time to look at it, really study it, put it in their practice, and then be the ambassador for it within that accounting firm or within that bookkeeping firm and really push it forward. And I think from that as well, you are so easy to upsell your services by looking at apps as well. And I think that's really important, that's the way you can grow as a firm this year, is apps can actually help you have the touch point with your clients more than once a year, more than once every 6 months, and you can speak to them and you can say, you can foresee problems that might happen and help them out before you get there. So one of the things I have to say, final place is apps are there to help grow your business and make it more efficient this year as well. And that's something I can really see happening if done right.
Definitely. I think too, I guess maybe a mistake potentially, or a mishap, maybe not a best practice, that I see a lot of Xero users kind of doing is, they get Xero, that's a foundational tool for growing their business, that's their accounting hub, and all that's great. But I think where people start to run into problems is when they start trying to, I guess, rejig Xero for things that it wasn't made to do. So I think that's applications like those in the App Store for functionalities like email marketing or contact management, which accounting software like Xero is awesome. It's an awesome accounting software, but it wasn't designed to do all these other things. So that's another kind of tip for today. Great. So we actually did get our first question in from Dale, so I'm going to share their question. So they're wondering, can Xero 100% confirm that apps on their app store are fully GDPR compliant? So I have some thoughts on this, but I can pass it over to the Alexes if you guys want to tackle that.
Well, GDPR is mainly for the European market. Therefore, I cannot really say that it's possible to say that all 100% apps on the App Store is GDPR compliant. If they are on specifically, let's say, on the Asian market, therefore they don't need to be GDPR compliant. Those who are on the European market and based in Europe, I would say not 100% or 99%, I'm not sure exactly. I haven't tried any other apps, but Approval Max is GDPR compliant. And I know some other apps which is based in Europe, they're also GDPR compliant. So it's purely depends on the market that they're working at.
Yeah,
I would second that, exactly what Alex said. So
that's kind of where I was coming from it as well. So cheers, Alex.
Kudos. So Dale, hopefully that answers your question there. Awesome. I think too, any apps that are GDPR compliant, like you'll be able to find that pretty easily on their website, because that's something they'll be publicizing for their audience. So great. Okay, cool. So we can kind of move into our fourth poll here. So we're wondering how big of a priority is using apps that integrate with Xero for our audience today. So let me just get that launched. And you guys can get your votes in here. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this in just a few minutes, but I'm really curious what all of your thoughts are. So we've got a few options. You can pick one out of the four. The first one is apps that integrate with Xero is a huge priority for you. It's a must. Second, it's important, but not a deal breaker. The third is it's a nice to have, but definitely not at the top of your list. And then the fourth option here is it's not a priority at this time. So I'll leave the poll open for a couple more seconds here, just so that everyone has time to participate. And yeah, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what the panel's thoughts on kind of this question are. Again, if you did sign up through CPA Academy and you're looking to get that CPE credit, please make sure to get your vote in just to make sure your credit doesn't have any issues in terms of getting issued out. Great. And we're just going to leave the poll open for another 5 seconds here. So if you want to participate and you have not, please get your response in. All right, and with that, I'm going to close the poll and share those results. Great. So looks like most of you. Yeah, so maybe we can dive into some education on the benefits of integrating with Xero here. But it looks like the majority of you, it's not at the top of your list, which is totally fine. Maybe we can change your mind by the end of this webinar. And then the other 3 options, it looks like people are pretty split across the board. So with that, I will close that poll. We'll get the slides up. All right, great. So kind of on this note, I guess to address the poll question, do either of the Alexes have thoughts on kind of the value of integrations for Xero users?
Alex, you want to start?
Yeah. I mean, for me, and my time spent in kind of the Xero world, if you want to call that, especially over the last 8 years, I've seen it's become more and more important, if I'm being really honest with you guys. that I don't see, and by that I don't mean you have to use as many apps as you can to integrate with Xero, not at all. I think there's a real power behind building what we call your app stack, so the certain apps that plug in with Xero, and then you can use, and your team are behind to use efficiently, that can grow your business and make it more efficient. And for me, the more I've seen people do that, the more I've seen successful firms do that, and a more success in a firm is based around the app stack around Xero. And I think for me, being in that world, I've seen, for example, with Alex, plenty of people use approval maps with Dext, with Xero, and the list of how that works together and how they build the right stack. I think also the world is changing, and we can't get away from it. We're going through a hard time, and businesses are going through a hard time, and people are going through a hard time financially. And I think the more touch points you can have with your clients, and the ability to be able to future-proof what you can see happening for them in these bad times, can be done through integrations of apps, can be done through reporting apps, approval processes, etc. And you can help them, and you can pick up the phone, or you can choose to meet, and you can have that conversation earlier rather than later with them. So for me, actually, right now, I think it's more important than ever to help small businesses, so accountable bookings can help their clients right now. I mean, I don't have any data beyond that, but if we see the amount of apps that have integrated over Xero over the last 8 years and have pushed forward to have their integration, it proves that people are wanting to use apps, and that successful businesses are. I mean, when I started off at Xero, I think there was 70 integrated apps with Xero, and now there's over 1,000, and that just shows the power of integration. But for me, I think more and more through these times we're going to go through, it doesn't matter where you are in the world right now, I think we read that, no, it's a financially hard time. We're seeing small businesses struggle, and it's been a hard few years as it is. I think the integrations of apps and being able to future-proof and offer them additional services to make sure we're looking after small businesses is important now more than ever, is my honest answer to that and what I've seen. And I'm sure Alex has the expertise of chatting to plenty of accountants and bookkeepers and can kind of jump in on that as well. But for me, I'm seeing the real importance of it.
Yeah, and I actually would like to emphasize your words. Take a step back, like 17 years ago. It's a bit on a different market, but you'll get the point in a moment. 17 years ago, when the iPhone was released, I remember former CEO of Microsoft, Steve Ballmer, was laughing about it, saying it's like, no one real serious people will ever use that because it's just a toy for kids. A year after or 2 years after, they released an app store, and since that time it's really enhanced or leveraged the power of the technology from just a single piece of iPhone, which is quite a nice piece of technology, but the actual apps, that's what brings the actual power to your device. It can really enhance your capabilities in the business sphere, in the video and photography, or whatever you can think of. That's where the apps actually brings the whole thing. Same happened on the Xero side. So Xero is a great platform, but some users might find it quite limited in certain things, and that's why the app stores actually exist. Because developers around the world, they are very agile, they're very nimble, they can think about the market niche that might be a hit for the next year, for the next maybe 2 years or next decade, and they will create a product that will work much, much better than all of these old ERP systems, which has a lot of different subsystems between them, but they're not really working that great, because if you have such a huge corporation, it is almost impossible for you to create things fast and make them really, really good for your users. That's what developers, and that's what these cloud accounting, that's what these app stores can do. And from maybe 5 years from now, you will see that these booming Xero app stores will be just like we have on the Apple App Store.
I think too, on the note of ERPs, is like, I don't know, there's this whole narrative that I would say maybe is a little untrue around like, oh, once you reach a certain point of scale, which obviously everyone's, realistically trying to grow their business to some extent, it's like, oh, Xero, it's no longer the right tool for you. You need to move to an ERP. And I think with the App Store, that's just truly not accurate anymore. So the way that ERP kind of works, for those of you not super familiar with the acronym, is you have a lot of different modules that comprise your ERP, which is like your holistic business solution. And so one of those is often accounting. So that's where Xero users kind of get stuck with this like, do I have to leave Xero? Do I have to go with this like clunky, very expensive, often ERP system? I think for any of you guys who feel potentially like you're outgrowing Xero or you're hitting some limitations there, turn to the App Store, because most of the apps out there will offer at least functionality for one of the modules that an ERP would. So definitely important to note. Another thought too around just the note around integrations and why they're valuable for Xero users is I know a lot of you guys wrote in that like one of your business focuses for 2023 is actually increasing efficiency, and integrations way to do that, right? So instead of having one of your team members, maybe your office manager, maybe a more junior employee, just rekeying data between Xero and let's say your CRM or any other kind of solution out there that you're using, this is happening automatically. So really beneficial in terms of the fact of hours saved, higher efficiency, a happier employee as well, because really who wants to be doing data entry? Not me, for sure. And then also too, you're empowering your team with accurate and up-to-date information. So you're saving anyone at your organization from, maybe calling a customer and being like, hey, we actually got your payment, because whatever data source they're looking at is not actually connected to Xero, where that payment's already been recorded and gone through. And the result is a really negative customer experience where they're going to be like, I did pay you, your business isn't going to look super professional, super sharp on that end. And your customer may get pissed off, to be honest with you, and end up leaving for a competitor. So you're really minimizing business risks as well there and adding to your professionalism. Don't know if there's any other thoughts before we move on to our next question, but
I just think that human touch point comes into it that's really important. I think technology, people fear it kind of removes that human touch point, but within business it doesn't have to at all. I think we need to. I think I really want people to break that mindset of it. You can know the team behind the app, but secondly, you can then make contact with your clients. And I think, like you just nailed it on the head, you don't want to have them negative conversations where something's gone wrong, but we can change their negative conversations into positive, where you're calling your client and future-proofing stuff like I mentioned earlier, or saying, oh, do you know we offer this service, or we could help you in this, or we saw it so much in the UK where people were wanting funding over the last few years or whatever that is, and because of their apps integrations they already had in place, funding were able to get more and quicker funding into their businesses because they could prove, I've spoken to so many accounts where like every time someone spoke to do with the government over COVID, I was worried, it was just constant, and they were like, but then I need to make sure the business survives. How do I get that funding? And the reasons were that they were using reporting systems, or they were using reporting systems with Xero, or there's a funding service that looks into that and then looks at your credit score, which plugs into Xero, and how all that works together just makes it so quicker. And it means you can, rather than putting out fires that are happening, you can look for them fires and go to your customer and help them not even start. And I think that's the really crucial part. But there is a human side to it as well. And I think that's really important to say, because I think some people think as soon as you talk about technologies, it's like we lose the human side of it. And just to touch on efficiency as well, I think to make your teamwork more efficient, it's just, we need technology. And again, it doesn't take the human side out of it. There's so many integrations we can use that make our team run on technology. And remember, most of these apps that have come or have been built out of a pain point that someone's had in their life. So for example, if we talk about decks where you capture receipts, the guys that set it up, it was built out of a pain point, and they were fed up with dropping shoeboxes of receipts off to their accountant, and then they had to scan it through, or they were the accountant having to scan it through. So I think we need to remember that a lot of these apps that are out there have come from founders or people that have built them that have had that pain point in business themselves or in being an accountant themselves. And you'll actually hear that story a lot with apps that integrate with Xero. If you start to get to know them, they're kind of coming from that. So I guess also from that is like people bring their expertise to it, and we can listen to that as well.
Yeah, adding to the human point, that if we're talking about the app developers like Dex, Approval Max, and so other apps on the market, we see that they are creating the product for very, very specific niche. So they know their product, they want to listen to their customers, they want to know their feedback, and they are super nimble in adding these new features that the customers are asking. And on top of that, that's their bread. That's the only thing that they're doing. That's how they make money. Therefore, they're eager to hear the feedback, and they're eager to provide new features, new things. They want to provide the best the best customer service possible. So adding all of these up makes it much more preferred option, and especially it's much cheaper than adding this ERP system, than having this big old thing where you would never receive any good customer service, where you would never receive any new features, because it's just such a huge system and it's just a little part of it that you want to receive some changes. So for me, it's a no-brainer to go with an app stores and with little apps, just like I would do on my mobile phone.
Yeah, Alex too. I think that's an interesting point around like a lot of these apps coming from like founder pain points, like a method that could be more the case as well. Our founder, Paul, I'm going to steal his story here, but he a field service scheduling app company that he sold and stuff. But he had this one guy, I can't remember what his name was, one employee, and he was just great. And he was a developer, and he would just customize the solution to do anything that they wanted because he was a really fast coder. So one example was they had a lot of like landscaping clients, so they made a little module widget thing in their product that showed the weather, so that all the techs knew like how hot it was going to be or not, and all that kind of stuff. So the customers really liked it as well because they could assume if they hadn't gotten an email yet that if it was raining, their job would get done that day. So like, with that, Paul was like, I always wanted to replicate that one developer, and we were lucky as a tech company to be able to afford, a salary like that. But most small businesses don't have, that resource available to them.
Yeah.
But Enter Method, for those of you not familiar with no code technology, that's exactly what we are. So instead of having to know how to work, JavaScript and code really well, you can just drag and drop the different solutions there to kind of tailor to your needs, which I think we'll get into that a little bit later. So if we could just go back maybe 2 slides, we can jump into our last question there. And just before we do, one point on the idea of like still incorporating that human touch point into your operations. I think one thing that's interesting is like as you can't be everywhere at once, and technology is a great, I guess, like means to an end or method of still connecting with your customers in a really human way. So like, thank you notes after you receive payment, personalized like happy birthday messages, or hey, you've been our customer for a year, here's a discount, are ways that, maybe when you're a smaller company, you have a smaller customer base, you can manually remember to do these things and reach out. But with a lot of these technologies, you can kind of set and forget different automations to trigger for you. So just a final note before we move into our final here. So last one for today before we move into Q&A. So the Alex's, I'm wondering what recommendations you have for Xero users that are facing these growing pains to overcome, or sorry, 1 second, getting a little here with the slides. So last question for both of you. How do you recommend different Xero users overcome these growing pains that they might face kind of as they scale? Do either of you want to start with that one?
Yeah, the first one would be just to take a look on where do you have any gaps. Just shrink apart all of your business process for adding your invoices, paying them, for approving them, for reporting side, whatever you can think of, just shrink it on a little pieces and see where you have these little lockdowns, where you cannot really overcome the challenges of doing that efficiently, quickly, and without any errors, without any mistakes. Once we can spot the problem, then we can just dig into the same app store and find the solution that will change that. Will change that completely. And most importantly here, we know all about these app fatigue. It's hard to understand the new technology, hard to add it all into our day-to-day business. Do not be scared to talk with developers. Do not be scared to talk with the app providers. We are here to help because, well, that's our bread. We would like to make sure that onboarding is as smooth as possible, that it's implemented in the best way possible, that all of your employees, all of your staff will know exactly the way it works and how would they benefit that for their day-to-day work. So I'd say that would be several tips from my end, the way we can take a look on the picture from the broad picture and try to narrow it down to the specific pain points.
I think too, if you are in or additional solutions, not get kind of carried away with all the bells and the whistles. So while different features may sound really cool or attractive, you got to think about, is this really solving my core pain point, which is kind of what Alex was mentioning there. So with that, I'll pass it over to Alex Newson for his thoughts. I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me, guys? Don't know how that happened. Yep. Obviously, some weird stuff happening. Sorry, guys. See, I think you really hit the nails on the head with that. I think also, like Alex said, if you can nail it down, there's definitely stuff out there in the ecosystem to help you grow. I think also, like I said, speaking to Xero as well. Xero have a really good team and want to chat about when you feel like you're not being able to do stuff in there. in their system. I think the same as Alex said with other apps, I think you can speak to Xero. And also I think leading on from that as well, it's like building your app stack that can grow with your team as well. So not being scared of looking at how you can add to that to help grow them pain points, and then either speaking to the app staff or Xero themselves. And I think you can do that great by trying to attend events as well if you can. I think always kind of going to events and meeting the app vendors face to face is great, but if you can't, get on the app store, having a look. And also there's communities out there you can ask questions in as well, you know, like definitely like on social media, Slack groups, people that are doing the same thing in you in the same area. I know Xero do like a lot of road shows, like little ones around the year as well. Just asking people, you know, I think sometimes in business we're scared to kind of speak to people, but it's good to say, you know, like, I feel like I'm outgrowing this. Has anyone else ever had the issue? Kind of thing, like, what's going on here? Can you help me? As well, that'd be one of my big tips.
That's great. Thanks, Alex. And with that, that's kind of the end of our prepared content for today. So we'll be shortly moving into a Q&A. But first, we are just going to give you all a bit of a rundown of what we do. Obviously, we're all part of the Xero community, so we're just going to share with you in case any of our solutions can kind of benefit you today. So with that, I think we can kind of move to the next slide here. So the first, I can speak about methods. So while we are new to the Xero ecosystem, we have worked with a lot of small businesses that use different accounting software and have helped them in the past really enhance the capabilities of their accounting software as they kind of scale and need additional functionality. So kind of our bread and butter here is we're very helpful when it comes to automating your quote to cash cycle. So kind of all those pre-sales and customer management workflows is where we specialize in. So a couple key features here, our email campaigns are one that a lot of our Xero users really love, as well as online portals. So you can make it really simple to receive payment from your customers without having a 24/7 support team that I know most small businesses can't afford. And something that we're really proud of, again, is how much information we sync between Method and Xero. So a lot more fields than just your traditional invoicing kind of data. So that's a great way to empower the rest of your team with the financial data that they could benefit from without, you know, fully opening up the floodgates to all of that Xero information. So we do have a free trial. If you want to get started, check out method.me. And with that, I'll pass it over to Alex. He's going to tell you a little bit more about Approval Max.
Yes, thank you very much. So Approval Max is a approval automation tool for your financial documents. It works both on accounts payable and accounts receivable side. And basically what we do, we're giving you a platform for creating multi-step, multi-level approval workflows for your purchase orders, bills, credit notes, sales invoices, and etc. The way it works, if you have an idea the way it should be structured, let's say you have several departments, you have your senior management, and you would like your financial documents to be approved on time, you can build up the workflow based on the different criteria like your tracking categories, like amount thresholds, like suppliers, nominal codes, and so on and so on. And once you build that, the whole process becomes seamless and on the background. So for your users, the whole process becomes very, very seamless because you can do your approvals on the go via our mobile app or within our web application or via email notifications. However, on top of that, there are some additional tools like bill to purchase order matching if you want to have even more robust spend control. In case you keep your budgets in Xero Budget Manager, Approval Max will allow you to enable a budget checking feature. So then you can keep track in real time how does your budgets compares against the bills and POs that you're approving. There's some additional things like customizable report, fraud detection and analysis tool, batch payment approval workflows. So there's lots of things behind the product. But on the general idea, this is an approval automation tool for your financial documents. You can try it for free. There is a 14 days free trial. Play around with all the data. You can always send a message to our support team or to our sales team so they can come back to you shortly, explain you the way it works, or you can just simply attend one of our weekly webinars that I'm doing every week, where you can understand the way it works from the very basic, from the general overview, the way it works. So feel free to do that as well.
That's great. Thanks, Alex. And just one last reminder before we hear from the other Alex about XU Magazine. We're going to take any questions that the audience has. So if you do have any, just make sure to chat us via the GoToWebinar control panel. And with that, I will pass it over to Alex Newson.
Thank you. So XU Magazine it's founded out of a pain point, I guess, like most things. So there's three of us here that own it. We've got a team around us in the UK. My business partner was an accountant and still is a Xero Platinum accountant, and he was producing loads of content around Xero and apps to integrate with it. At the time, there was only about 70 of them, and we realized there was nothing out there to independently speak about them, update you on news, new releases, features, comparisons, interviews. And that's basically, we do all that totally free of charge, all on our website. You can subscribe on it, or you can just go and visit it. We work with you guys as well, and lots of apps like you guys. Amazingly, we get a great opportunity. We are worldwide based, but then we also do country specific news as well. So I just recommend you to go and have a look. We've got our next bi-weekly newspaper coming out this Saturday. So if you go and sign up, you get it this Saturday morning to your inbox, and you can read some of the latest news that's happened over the last 2 weeks. But yeah, we release the magazine quarterly, and that's more of your tutorials and educational stuff as well.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, Xero Magazine's got tons of great tips in there. If you haven't already checked it out, I definitely recommend hitting subscribe, if you will.
Thank you.
All the time.
Yeah, big fans, big fans.
And every time you would like to understand a bit more about the ecosystem, Xero Magazine is the place to go to.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. So we're going to run into Q&A now. So again, just chat us if you have a question that you want the panel to answer live. So I see one has come in from Patty, and they are wondering if Method can be useful to a CPA firm, not specifically to grow it, but for client management. So I can tackle that one, of course. So the answer is yes, Patty. We have a few features of actually a solution that we just integrated with Xero that's focused especially for CPA firms and accountants in general. So beyond just kind of what we offer in our traditional CRM, you're getting engagement letter creation. So pulling all that information from Xero from your customers in there to create really professional engagement proposal letters for them to sign. There's like an e-signature function, some nice automation that follows from there as well. And then in terms of client management, there's tons that you can do in terms of things like email campaigns for your existing clients, things like recaps of their progress with you, what you guys have done, all that kind of jazz. Same for portals are really helpful. And we do have some stuff around recurring invoices and stuff that a lot of our accounting clients love. So feel free to check us out if that's of interest. All right, next one I have from Trevor, and they're wondering, can I use Approval Max for expense approval?
Yes, you can, in short. So the way it works, we have lots of customers who are, let's say, working with Dext, and they are creating these expense reports over there, and then they will just submit it over to Approval Max. They will be, technically speaking, considered as a bills, as an invoices. However, it might be as the supplier name expense report, or it will be just coming from Dext as an expense report from a specific employee, and then you can build up the workflow based on that. So it's no problem at all.
Great. Thanks, Alex. And then we've got another question in here from Tom. So they're wondering if anyone on the panel can recommend some good resources for those that are new to using Xero. Anyone on the panel have thoughts on that question?
I can jump in here. I think a few things. One, we have a lot of content, not to blow our own trumpet, regarding kind of new apps to the marketplace for people that are new to Xero as well within that, and how they can look at existing apps or existing products within Xero. Every issue we report on the latest Xero news, the latest Xero updates around the world. But Xero themselves have actually got a really good education team, which depending where you're based, you can reach out to and get a lot of content from. And they do kind of like a lot of YouTube videos and stuff that explain certain things as well. And I think from that as well, social media is pretty good. Like on LinkedIn and Twitter, you'll find a lot of communities for people to help that are totally new to Xero and or new to what it offers and want to learn more as well. So I just kind of recommend them areas together. I don't know if you guys got anything else that I've kind of missed, but that's kind of where I'd say is a good starting point.
The only thing I would add there is too, if you feel like you need a little bit more of, I guess, like a guided approach, working with a Xero advisor is always a great call as well. I'm sure there's some on the call today, but there's quite a few in different geographic regions. So if you maybe don't want to spend the time, self-teaching, self-learning, a Xero advisor is a good way to get started if you're new.
I would also recommend to attend many of these conferences that are going through all around the world. You can meet so many great people from all different apps, Xero itself, and they will give you best advice possible and explain you the way it works. And you can actually see the way the whole ecosystem works, all the apps and so on and so on. So you have a full picture just from visiting it for one day.
Thanks, Alex. And we do have a follow-up question as well from Trevor around his question initially around Approval Max working for expense approval. So Trevor is wondering if Approval Max also works with HubDoc as well as Dext.
Yes, we do. Actually, it doesn't really matter which OCR tool you're using. We can work with any OCR tool if it connects to Xero. So if you're using HubDoc or Data Molino or AutoEntry, EasyBills, whatever, there's so many apps over there. If it could be connected to Xero, if you can send your expense or if you can send your bill into awaiting approval state, Approval Max will pull the document and run through the sequence of your approval steps. So yes, in short, we can work with HubDoc just like with any other tool.
Great. And we're going to answer one last question before we wrap up for today. This one's from Dale, and they are wondering, we mentioned earlier that Xero plus other apps can compete with certain ERPs. Do you think there is a limit? So that's a really interesting question, Dale. So I feel like, in my opinion, especially coming from, you know, a no-code platform provider that integrates really deeply with Xero, I would say no, from my perspective. So I think if Xero is still working for your accounting needs, one, there's thousands of apps now that integrate that are point solutions that specialize in really niche areas, I would say, of a business. So whether you need like an HR kind of system, whether you need something for approvals like Approval Max, there's a ton out there. And two, when you look in kind of the no-code space, what's great about tools that like Method is you can actually create custom apps that are geared towards whatever your niche process is, right? So let's say, really niche example, let's say you are a bowling alley business that uses Xero and you need like a custom app for like shoe returns and collecting, you know, any customers like shoe size before they actually complete payment, and forecasting like when you need to, I guess, like replace that inventory, because obviously there's like a shelf life to bowling shoes, for example. That's something that you can kind of work with our customization team with to actually create. Again, too, if you want to do it yourself, totally doable as well. But just when you get into those more complex workflows, it might be helpful to have kind of a customization expert at your disposal. So in my opinion, no. I'll pass it off to the other panelists just in case you have thoughts. And yeah, then we can wrap up.
It is actually a very, very good question. I'd say that I would agree that there is really no limit, but maybe ERPs, it's more of a limitation. They have a bit more of a limitation rather than this cloud accounting system, because that's actually the beauty of it. Maybe ERP, it might be already a very, very old system, like a dinosaur that has so many modules and so many things already within that, but market switches and market goes so fast that these big ERPs cannot really fulfill all the things that are required now these days. While Xero, they can do that, not even the Xero itself, but more of app developers. So when it comes for up-to-date things, I'd say Xero is much, much higher in the things, but you cannot really compare one thing to another. It's a completely different market, completely different niche. There is things that can be compared, things cannot be really compared. So it's really hard to answer in just one simple answer.
Yeah, I'm leaning where you guys are, I think, on that. It's a very interesting question to echo that. But yeah, I think, you know, as we see the ecosystem around Xero grow, and as you say, there's a lot more bespoke integrations, or where people can be bespoke, especially like with no code, like you're saying, and elements like that. I think we're kind of seeing that become a bit more redundant, but again, it's very hard to compare. So I'm sure if someone really wanted to, they might be able to catch us out on that and prove us wrong. But I believe we're hitting that point where we've grown a lot in the last 5 years, and it's very different now. Kind of thing.
I think too, just one final note, maybe word of caution on ERPs, is it depends how agile you want to be, right? So a lot of people spend a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of resources implementing an ERP, so they kind of get locked into the tool. When you're using tools like Xero or Approval Max or Method, kind of those SaaS providers, you can cancel at any time and switch them out as you're using. That's just another kind of thought on that one. But alas, thank you all for such great questions. We are going to wrap up for today. So a huge thank you to both the Alexes for their awesome points today. Really appreciate your time, everyone. And until the next one, we'll see you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Have a lovely rest of the day. Thanks. Bye-bye.